Welcome into Three True Values. I'm your host, James Fletcher, here with you as always to talk all things college basketball. Today on the show, we're going to go through the situation going on at Memphis currently. Some controversy with the roster. Is Jordan Brown with the program? Is he sick? Is he gone? Conflicting reports, multiple things out there. We'll talk a little bit about what we know there. Then we will talk about Nae'Qwan Tomlin. Came on to campus for a visit after his dismissal from the Kansas State program. He did not play so far this season, making him eligible once he entered the transfer portal to play in the spring semester. He commits to the Memphis Tigers. We'll walk through what that means, how that happens here in this first segment, take you through the revolving door of a roster midway through the season, which we rarely see in college sports. In the second segment, we'll touch just briefly on Michigan State. What is going wrong there? Now below 500, one of the worst starts ever for a team ranked as high as they were, and really some big concerns. We'll talk about it because obviously, while I questioned the roster building, I still thought they were going to be very good this season. That has not been the case so far. We'll talk about it a little bit in that second segment. Then we'll come back, we'll get you the games of the week, and we will get you out of here as we approach the Christmas time. This little section of games between, we had our MTEs, we had a lot of those, had a lot of really good games, those big non-conference matchups. Now, as we get into this week, next week, the spotty here and there. We have a couple good matchups. We'll talk about them in that final segment, but it's a little sparse throughout the week. You got a lot of teams playing one game per week, especially coming up this week as many college campuses complete their finals. You got exams going on, so those players locked in on that for a few days here. But as we start talking on this show, we are going to start in this first segment, as I promised, on the University of Memphis. Penny Hardaway brings in essentially a brand new roster, led by Javon Quinterly at point guard, David Jones on the wing, Caleb Mills agrees to come off the bench for this squad. You've got Jaquan Walton, you've got Jordan Brown, you've got Nick Jourdain, Ashton Hardaway, a freshman who has started some for the Tigers so far this year. A lot of different pieces that can contribute to winning and have contributed in different roles so far this season. But Jordan Brown, who looked fantastic in their preseason games, looked really good early on, started to struggle. You saw some conditioning issues, the way Memphis wanted to play. They wanted to get out. They wanted to use speed. They wanted to spread the floor. Not how Jordan Brown had played previously. A lot of things went through him in the post. It was a lot slower pace at Louisiana than what Memphis has been running. And so not a perfect fit. He struggled a little bit. His production went down, points per game, rebounds, and then didn't start every game either. Malcolm Dandridge starting at times for the Tigers. Jordan Brown is sick. Now, there has been no sort of update on what that illness is, but as soon as that came out, he did not travel with the team. They came back. There was no update, just that he was sick. Then questions started to come up. There was then a report saying that he had left the program and was no longer with the Memphis Tigers. That was then disputed by the program. They say that his status with the program has not changed. However, it is clear from conversations that Penny Hardaway has had with the media, that the players have had during post-game press conferences, during those midweek media availability sessions, that Jordan Brown is not currently part of the plan right now. Now, it sounds like what is happening here is he is away from the team, whether it's through illness, whether he is choosing not to participate in certain events, whether he is frustrated and taking time for himself. Whatever the case is, whatever reason he is not currently with the team, he's not there. He's not going to be playing in games for the foreseeable future until whatever this is resolved and there is a change. So he's away from the team right now. Malcolm Dandridge has filled in. He's played well at center. They pick up wins against VCU and Texas A&M, big wins for their resume as they continue this gauntlet of a non-conference schedule. But then we have an update. Nae'Qwan Tomlin, this is in a separate, we got Jordan Brown over here. We got Nae'Qwan Tomlin over here. Nae'Qwan Tomlin at Kansas State. He was projected to be a big part of their team this season, and many believed he was going to be a key piece of what made them a top 25 roster this year under Jerome Tang. However, an incident leading to a bar fight becomes public. He faces the consequences of that. There have since been rumors. I wouldn't go as far as to say reports because there has never been anything out there. It is not in the police report. It has not been verbalized as the reason for his departure from the program. Nothing like that. But essentially more serious accusations than just what you picture as a bar fight. Now, whether you want to get into the speculation of any of that, video of it, whatever the case is, that's not what we're here to do. Kansas State made the decision based off the evidence that they had acquired to dismiss him from the program. They were met at that time when they decided to do so with quite a bit of backlash. It sounded like there was not a cohesive agreement between the team, the staff, the athletic department, and the president. Now, which groups fell into which camp, like that is behind the scenes stuff. There's been some reporting on that, saying that certain people felt certain ways, certain people thought that it was something that they could not come back from. Whatever the case was, the president and the board had the final say. He ends up dismissed from the program. Well, now he did not enter a game yet this season. Therefore, because he has the ability as a first-time transfer at the Division I level to enter the portal without having to sit out, he's able to go in the portal and basically open up his recruitment for the spring semester. He can now enroll wherever he wants in the spring. And so once that spring semester starts, he will be eligible for games. He can start playing for wherever he commits. He commits, takes a visit, comes to see the University of Memphis, goes to a Memphis Grizzlies game, seen around the same area as Rick Stansberry. Things start coming together. Well, what do you know? Today we find out he is committed to the Memphis Tigers. That's the latest. That's where we stand with both of these stories, which have now converged into one. And the reason that it's interesting that they converge into one here, Penny Hardaway has made it clear that Jordan Brown is still with the team, but they've brought in Tomlin. Tomlin, of course, as I said, was expected to be a big part of a winning team. So it now appears that Jordan Brown, whether he's dealing with illness or whatever situation is going on, if Jordan Brown wants to come back to this team, contribute to this team, and be part of the rotation, he will have to not only figure out whatever it is he needs to figure out, but he will then have to come back into the team and compete with Tomlin and Dandridge for minutes. Because Nae'Qwan Tomlin will play. He will be out there. He will get a bulk of the minutes. But can Jordan Brown, who was clearly before all of this frustrated with his role at certain times, accept even less of a role? Because that's now what he will have to do if he wants to come back into this team. Now, I will say it is not unprecedented for the University of Memphis or other college basketball programs to have a guy who gets frustrated, has issues, leaves the team for whatever reason it is, personal, illness, or otherwise, and then return to have that realization that they want to be part of it, to speak with certain people on the team, away from the team, whatever the case is, and come to this realization that they can make those sacrifices. So I'm not saying he's not going to come back, but right now, I think that as of today, we saw a drastic decrease in the chances that it happens on, I don't want to say good terms, but on terms that seem beneficial to both sides right now, as of today. Because like I said, Tomlin is going to come in here within the next month and be a big part of this rotation. So for Memphis, you'd think, man, here we go again. There's always something brewing in this program. So much drama happening. You know, you have the Imani Bates thing, and that's, you know, another instance of that. He comes back, he ends up being good in the NCAA tournament. But so much happening around this team, whether it was Landers Nolly, whether it was Boogie Ellis, whether it's Alex Lomax and Tyler Harris, it's just there's always stuff going on. James Wiseman, I mean, that probably the biggest one, most high-profile instance of this happening. So much happening around this Memphis basketball program. But the results have still been good. And for this specific Memphis team, despite this little run of drama, yeah, they had some issues. Reports have since come out by a friend of the show, a guy who we had on during the preseason, Parthy Patiai, saying that Javon Quinterly, as well as Malcolm Dandridge, multiple times over the past couple of weeks have sat down with the team and said, look, if we are going to do this, we have to come together as a family. This has to be a connected group. If we're going to accomplish the things that we can with this group of basketball players, it has to be together. And it's one thing for that to happen and for the leader to say, get in line behind me, right? Javon Quinterly, sixth-year guy, tons of experience. He's been on some of the biggest stages in college basketball. He could get up there and he could say, follow behind me, I'm the leader. He didn't do that. What he told, reportedly, his teammates was, David Jones is our guy. David Jones is the number one option. He's the player. So we get the ball to David Jones. Once they start to double David Jones, once they start to converge on him, once they start to change their game plan to stop him, a guy who had 20-plus points in the first half, by the way, against Texas A&M this weekend, then we get the ball. Then we help him out. We help him carry the load. If you can get that kind of leadership from your point guard and from your center, I think that's an encouraging sign for this team, for the connectiveness of this group, despite some of the drama that seems to be going on around it. That's all we'll talk about for now on the Memphis program. When we come back on the other side, we'll talk a little bit about Michigan State. Is Tom Izzo done? Is it a down year? Will he have to adapt? We'll talk about that here on Three True Values. Welcome back into Three True Values. We keep talking about the big issues, the big topics around college basketball, and there has been no other kind of negative storyline than Michigan State's plummet down the rankings. Now 4-5 on the season. They're struggling every game, it seems like, to figure something out. Tom Izzo, frustrated with his players. He's got a veteran group, so what is it? What's happened? What is wrong with this program? Well, for starters, rebound. They have not been a good rebounding team. I think bringing in a five-star in Xavier Booker, a lot of people, including myself to a certain degree, thought that they just kind of had that down. Well, Xavier Booker has not looked ready to compete at this level. When he has gone in games, he has struggled. He has been on the bench for a majority of the time so far this season. We'll see as the season goes on, can he work his way into the college basketball game? Can he prepare himself like the five-star prospect that he was touted as? That's going to be important for this team if they're going to dig themselves out of this hole. But right now, he does not look ready to contribute in that way, which then means They're relying on Cooper and Sissoko, two guys who have let them down so far this season. I thought that was a position of strength for them, a position where they had a little bit of depth. Well, now if you take Booker out of the picture, you're talking about two guys. So if we talk about Cooper struggling, I mean, I thought he'd probably be the third guy. Well, now, you're asking him to be like 1A, 1B with Sissoko. Okay, well, like, he's just not at that level, I don't think. So he's trying to be something that he just has not been in his career so far. And you got Sissoko who's struggling to play at the level that we've seen him at his peak. So you're talking about needing 1A and 1B, and instead you're getting like two low level 2 and like a good C, a good 3 option. Like you just don't have what you need at that center position. Now, I think we expected in some ways for those guards to kind of run the show with Akins, Hogard. I thought perhaps with Tyson Walker, those three could just carry this team through any nights that they had struck, because the forward spot was the one that we kind of thought maybe there's some questions there. Well, Malik Hall, he's good. Cohen Carr has been up and down as a freshman, but I think he provides them some interesting things. He gives them some opportunities to cover up some mistakes. But you're not getting enough from Hogard and Akins. So it's been Walker on offense. Tyson Walker is their guy. He is their offense, and they have struggled because he's a smaller guard who now you throw big bodies at him and he can't have an outlet through the middle. They can't grab offensive rebounds if he misses. You're relying on him so heavily to produce at such a high level to even keep you in games. So this Michigan State team, I said it before, and look, I'll double down on it. I said during our transfer portal special, I think I've said it throughout the season a couple of times already. Tom Izzo has to figure out how to use the transfer portal properly to fill out his roster. I know he wants to build through recruiting, and he can do that. There's no issue building a team based on recruiting, but supplement your deficiencies. Go get a graduate transfer. And this is the thing. He's brought in transfers before. He's had Hauser. He's had Tyson Walker. He has brought in transfers who have filled in where they needed, but now he's on this anti-transfer portal kick, and it hurt this team. I think if they had one or two more 6-year veteran a big forward who could stretch the floor, maybe a guard who can run the offense when Akins or Hogard is struggling, I think you take so much pressure off of your guys who are going through these tough stretches. But no, he didn't want to go that route. He didn't, and I think it's going to be important for him going forward to see how he can use it, not in the way that some teams have used it, not in the way Memphis uses it. Memphis wants to build a new team of 23, 24-year-olds every season. That's what Penny Hardaway thinks is the best way to build this team right now. Nate Oates, similar. He wants to go after any high-level 4-stars, 5-stars that he thinks he can develop into NBA players. After those guys, he wants transfers. He wants the veterans who can contribute. And you see it all across the country. Even Duke, who of course relies on 5-star, 5-star, 5-star. And then the graduate transfers, your Ryan Youngs, Jacob Grandison last year. They've brought in these older guys at a position where they can offer depth. You offer them the chance to come to your institution, to be part of your program, to learn from you as a coach. Look, I'm sure there are plenty of guys out there who want to get into the coaching profession after they're done with their playing career. They know they're not going to the next level, but they're really solid college players who are interested in the coaching profession. And you offer them the chance to come practice with Tom Izzo every day for a year. That's appealing. And so there's just this pool of talent, this pool that they can pull from and make a better team that they didn't do this year. And so I think it's frustrating as someone who loves to see Tom Izzo coach teams have success, because they do play a really good brand of basketball that can win at an elite level. They got to have the guys to do it. They got to have the depth, the pieces to get it done. Apparently, so far this year at least, they have not had that. Still waiting. They've got time. They'll be able to build their resume through the conference schedule, but it's also not going to be any breaks in the conference schedule. They've got to get it figured out by the time this calendar turns to January, whatever that means. If they need guys to just reset over the holidays, come back, fresh mindset, get back in the gym, or if they need to start changing the way they do things, change up the practice routine, get guys in the gym more often, get them shooting more often out there on the floor, whatever it is, got to do it, because this Michigan State team is kind of plummeting down the rankings and the schedule only gets tougher. We come back on the other side. We will wrap up this episode of Three True Values with your games of the week. Back into Three True Values. We get you guys out of here today with the games of the week. As I said in the intro, it's a little sparse. We get into this time of year, not everybody playing a full slate, 2 games per week. And so you've got plenty of teams that are just choosing to play Saturday and then again on Saturday, or Sunday and then again on Saturday, on Sunday, whatever the case is. So as we go through this, sometimes some of these games we're going to just be watching like one of the teams. They're an interesting team. We might be watching both of the teams, but one of them as an at-large team and one of them as a potential conference champion automatic qualifier in their conference. And then we've got a couple of games that are just blockbuster matchups. You're not going to want to miss them. So as we start tonight, Tuesday, we got Oregon against Cal Baptist. This is one of those. Oregon has been really good so far. If they can get over some of these injuries, if they can get everybody in together, I think they've got a deep, talented roster. So let's go ahead and check in with Dana Altman, see what he's got going there. Tomorrow, that's Wednesday, Auburn and UNC Asheville. UNC Asheville, an interesting mid-major team, potential automatic qualifier. They take on Auburn, who, again, I think this is a team that like was built on the idea of creating that chemistry, right? Like Bruce Pearl didn't want to just go get 13 transfers. He didn't want to just go get 5 stars. He didn't want to he wanted to pick a combination of recruits, a combination of transfers, a combination of guys coming up from a lower level who are just happy to contribute in any way. And also one of the interesting things that he does is in this era where maybe you can't keep 13 players happy, he gives walk-ons a chance to be in that 13-man group. Because of course they're happy. They never thought they would even be on the roster. They were just hoping for a chance to suit up and sit on the bench on game day. So building his program around this idea of creating chemistry all the way down the roster, interesting to see how it plays out over the course of the season. On Thursday, we have Florida against East Carolina, a Florida team that has been pretty interesting so far. They've got a diverse collection of talent on that roster. Interested to see how they keep growing throughout the season as well. Friday, we get into the blockbuster UConn and Gonzaga. That is a huge game and really is going to teach us a lot. So Friday night, make sure you're tuned in, UConn and Gonzaga. Saturday, we got one of the biggest games you could possibly draw up in college basketball. North Carolina and Kentucky are playing each other. You don't want to miss it. Go ahead, sit down, watch the whole game from start to finish. 2 blue blood programs, 2 programs that are trying to prove that they are at the top of the game right now after good starts to the season. On Sunday, we've got Kansas State and Nebraska. Nice little rivalry series there. Kansas State, we talked about a little bit in this show. They're down a man from what they thought they had starting the season, but still Jerome Tang trying to put the pieces together that he has on that roster. They've got some really good talent. It's about trying to figure out who fits where and in what role for them in Nebraska. Nebraska's had a good start to the season too. Don't overlook the Cornhuskers. Is this the year that they kind of turn that thing around? We've been waiting for a few years now to see if they can. On Monday, light schedule, but we're going to watch Bradley and Duquesne. Those two programs, both potential automatic qualifiers if they can win their conferences. So we'll just check that out, see what we see from those two teams, and potentially it'll help us as we get into March and we're watching conference tournaments and see those two teams on the schedule. That's all we've got for you here today. I want to thank everyone once again for tuning in to 3 True Values. We'll be back next week with a show talking all things college hoops. Whatever comes out from the next week across the sport, you never know quite what it will be, but we'll be here to talk about it on 3 True Values.